understand of the actual industry itself. So naturally to come back into the business in more of an executive sense in the last 2 years has been hugely, I think it's scary, like the jumping off the cliff sort of idea. But it's just been so natural. It's been brilliant. So with us, we already had the gyms that I'm now operations for previously. So I'm fitting into a role that had been there existently before, but also making sure that people know that I'm going to back them. I'm going to be down in the trenches with them as well. There's no sense of that nepotism concept. You know, there's the face of the business needs to be those people enacting through the club itself, not just devout unto the leader that sits above. So I think that managing the immense work that was done before me, whilst also then making my own path, that was something that I found to be a little bit more of the challenge, getting out of my cookie cutter of the last name, but being able to then be myself and feeling a little bit open to move around with that as well. That was fun. And
Totally.
Still is.
Totally. And you recently came, as part of Elevate, you recently came to the Leading High Performance Teams workshop. What drove you to come to that? And what were the key takeaways?
Very, very interesting story. So I was actually doing some classic networking and I was approached by an incredible member of your staff, casual chatting, you know, my natural, I guess, exuberance and passion for the industry came across somewhat maybe. And then, and he asked if I wanted to come to the workshop and if I'd heard of the Entourage, which I had before, and, you know, very reluctant to say no, if ever. I accepted. And so I wasn't even a member at this point when I came along by myself to the workshops, and I was so blown away. The fact that I don't have to have a business acumen that expands through, you know, CBD's experience behind me, but I was able to really latch on to just classic concepts that was reinvigorated for the modern business person. It was brilliant. I loved the fact that the leadership had a structure in it, but then allowed you to have these emotional engagements with the work itself. I found to be so fantastic about the way that I think that you run your workshops with Entourage, and why I had to come on board is that it made so much sense. And you hear it nonstop, but I think that so often we have these hurdles that we don't have the answer to. So to walk into a room where that's stripped away and you just have to bring your experience behind you, and you don't have to know all the answers right now, but it's there before you and you can take what you want from it, has been incredible. So it was my first workshop, not my last by any stretch. And it was fantastic. It was great.
Talk to us about some of the key sort of management and leadership principles you've ingrained. I mean, you've got a team of 30 people, 3 different gyms. So, I mean, the management and leadership piece in amongst all of that is a critical and necessary component. What's been some of the keys for you nailing your management and leadership? Sure
thing. So a lot of it has been delegation, as said before. You only have the finite amount of hours each day that you do have, albeit some people you swear have more. Making sure that you've had people around you that you felt like you could unload onto. So I'm so blessed to have incredible management. Yeah. So upper tier club managers that I do. One so gifted that he's able to take care of 2 clubs, which is just phenomenal for us. So the sense of, I think, breaking down that group, a large group of 30 to 50. And then we have our instructors on the end as contractors, which, you know, they're quite flippant as well. So it's hard to handle everyone's personalities, but to making sure that you tier that big number back into a couple of key people, key personnel that you can make sure translate what you desire and understand their expectations and your dedication to them. If they need you, it has to have exactly the same process as well. So I think that learning from the workshop that we are still humans, but also learning that development is so key. So previously, I think I had been very reactionary, you know, handling the people power with fervor enough, like, oh, okay, I don't think we're doing enough in the sales side. Let's build on that. Okay, I don't think we're doing enough in terms of our hours, or, you know, we're busier in these times of the day. Let's react to it. Being able to then take processes from Entourage that was to say, okay, how about we just start building guidelines and you build your reviews into understanding where people want to go and move within the business framework, and they can tell you these problems before they happen because they're the ones on the front line. That simple essence of two-way communication built into the business. Yeah. Magic. Yeah. So I immediately kicked that in, as well as then having cultural events for staff that was something that we hadn't pigeonholed ourselves on, where we're very much a high flow industry. You know, you don't get the 9 to 5. You're open early hours, if not 24 hours. So a lot of the staff don't get to sit around and engage with each other. So making time to have cultural events with your staff and celebrating things, being together, as opposed to now doing celebrations as a single club, we do regional. So our staff all come together across all the clubs to know that they're part of a family.
Yeah.
And that's something that I knew that was really important on more of an emotional side and as a development side for staff, not just about the bottom line.
It's so important. And it's that same story I was talking about in the introduction, in that, you know, when you've got 2, 3, 4 staff, I mean, you know, everybody by the first name, you're all sitting around the one table, organizational change, it just happens. Montana, we're doing this. Scotty, we're doing this. Pete, we're doing this. That organizational change is done, right? But as we grow, you know, 6 staff, 8 staff, 10 staff, 20 staff, 30 staff, 90 staff, the management and leadership needs to be structural, like no different to what we're talking about before in terms of systems and processes. We need to have processes around how we structurally lead and manage, so that, you know, a Montana can come down to Sydney, obviously not in one of the gyms right now up in Newcastle, and they're all running exceptionally well because you've put that structural leadership in place.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's so empowering. And again, it sort of points to that leverage point that we were talking about before.
Totally.
Super cool. We will come back to that. Scotty McLaren. So I'm just going to read something out that you, I think, posted in the Facebook group just recently. Since joining the Entourage a mere 4 weeks ago, I've been empowered and enabled to drive real positive change in my business. So far, I've managed to restructure my team and free up $70,000 in unnecessary outgoings, implemented a sales process, pulled myself out of the day-to-day technician level operations, have somewhat of a marketing plan, and have a clear roadmap of where we are actually going.
That pretty much sums it up, yeah.
Interview over?
That's us, we're done. See ya.
Talk to us about your world pre-Entourage, man. What was going on?
Well, it was the best and worst time of my life, I would probably say. I mean, it was the best time of my life because I was finally able to cut myself free from employment and that traditional working for someone else, which I was sort of obligated to do coming here as a immigrant, if you like.
Yeah.
I was locked into that and I hated it. It was I knew that I had to do it to get to the outcome that I'm at now, but it was that was the worst feeling ever, knowing that I had to work for someone else. So when I was finally in a position to be able to cut loose and go and do that on my own, that was the most liberating thing ever. Now, what I didn't expect is that things would evolve as quickly as they did evolve. So it started off with myself and an old SUV that we had. My partner was overseas serving in the military, and I was sort of kicking around home with this old SUV and thought, you know what, I'll throw a ladder in here, we'll get some tools, and we'll go around and knock on some doors, and we'll start doing some jobs, and then that'll keep me happy for a bit. And what I didn't realise is that I'm bloody good at what I do. It turns out I'm a pretty good electrician. So the demand was amazing. So people just wanted more and more and more. And before I knew it, and before I was ready or capable, I didn't have any business background. I didn't come from a business background. Like I was a tradie, right? It was a sparky. And before I knew it, I had to employ a member of staff, and then I needed another member of staff. Then I had to get vehicles, and then I needed a place to operate from, and then I needed to get all that stuff in place. And it was just so overwhelming. I mean, immediately before Entourage, I was working, I don't know, 60, 80, maybe more hours a week just to keep my head above water of where the business was taking me. And I say where the business was taking me because I was not in control of it at all.
Yeah.
I was
Everyone at this table just started nodding their heads.
Yeah. Like I was completely at the mercy of where that was taking me and what direction the business wanted to go, or where people wanted the business to go, because the more demand came, then we just ran off and did that, and then something would get dropped there, so we'd run across there to fix that, and it all became a bit of a nightmare. The only thing throughout that whole process that kept me going was the fact that I knew we had something here. Like I knew the product we have and the delivery that we have was golden, right? There was no problem with that.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So at that point, that was that was the worst stage of my life. Like, and you spoke, Pete, about waking up at 3 and 4 in the morning and stuff like that. And I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, like, shit, now I'm setting that quote out, I'm going to have to go and do that. And then I'd be sitting at my desk at 3 in the morning. Before you know it, it's 6 in the morning, and then you've got a job at 6:30, and it was just a never ending experience. It's like the hamster on the wheel, right? You just keep running to keep it turning, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
100%. And it's understandable, right? Because that's how a lot of us start businesses. We're good at something, and so we start doing something as part of a business. And then the business grows, and the business grows, and the business grows. What's interesting for me to observe is just how many of us think, when I start doing 6 figures, then I'll be good. And then we get to 6 figures, and when I start doing 7 figures, then I'll be good. Yeah. And then you get 7 figures. It's like when I start get to 8 figures, then I'll be good. And what ultimately happens is, in the absence of managing the business and leading the business with structure and having processes and actually knowing how to manage and lead the company, the entrepreneur becomes the prisoner of the business, right? You're waking up at 3 a.m. It's causing anxiety. You're probably getting paid a really poor hourly rate if you took your net profit after tax and divided it by the hours that you were putting in.
At that stage, I had 6 people working in the business, and I was making the least amount of money of everyone, and I was the one putting in all the long days and the long hours and the weekends and whatnot. But by the end of pre-Entourage, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was sort of starting to resent the people that were working. I mean, as great as the people that all my team are amazing. We're very much, as cliche as it sounds, we're very much like a little family. Like, we're all mates and we hang out and like we're very close. But the resentment was starting to build up in me, because I was like, shit, I'm doing all this. Everything's on the line for me, and I've got nothing to show for it, type thing.
100%.
Yeah.
Man, I speak to business owners all the time, and they're like, I'm just sick and tired of it. They think they're sick and tired of the business. They're not. They're sick and tired of the stage that they're at.
Yeah.
Because the minute they're able to elevate up out of the stage that they're at and sort of reclaim their power, take back their time, start off by having weekends, and then you've got, you might take 3 days off and then 4 days off, and they start to get all their time back and they start to get profitable. It all of a sudden becomes, I actually deeply love this business. I was just resenting the stage that I felt stuck at for so long.
Absolutely. And it's that stage you spoke about earlier, where when one person's got their arms wrapped around every aspect of the business, and that's very much where we were at. I was doing absolutely everything in the business. Like, one day I would be out, doing sales, then I'd be building a landing page for marketing, then in the same day I'm out sweeping some Mrs. Smith's floor because I've just changed her light up above her dining room table. Like, it was legit like that. Like, it was insane, actually, now that I think of it. Like, it's amazing in such a short period of time as well, how fast things have changed just by implementing really small, seemingly simple things. It's amazing how the answers are there in front of you, and you just can't get out your own way, and you can't see them for looking at them, right? It's amazing.
Well, I think it really starts with a shift in your mindset to really respect and appreciate the value of your own time.
Mm-hmm.
And that you've got to be selfish with it. You can't be everybody to everybody all the time.
Yeah.
Now, like, one of the first things I heard in Entourage was stop wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
Like, once you start respecting and being, just holding back and saying no a few times, you actually create momentum for yourself.
Yeah.
And it does get easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I was chatting to one entrepreneur this morning. She was 45, incredible entrepreneur, but it just reminded me, and I sort of reflected back to her that she was a classic example of this. I mean, often when we start in the first couple of years, it does require this laser-like focus, and it's that, the business needs that 1 unit of output, so the entrepreneur personally puts in that 1 unit of input, and then the business needs another unit of output, so the entrepreneur personally puts in 1 unit of input. And then the marketing grows, and the sales grow, and the customers grow, and the operational complexity grows. And it gets to a point where the entrepreneur just can't possibly humanly put in any more input. They're working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They've driven themselves into the ground. They're burnt out. And it's like, man, this is just not a sustainable way of operating. And it's interesting for me from an observational perspective to see how many entrepreneurs get to that point. Some then quit, some will then regress to where they were, and some then will sort of learn the capabilities to help them navigate the next phase. But it's exactly what you said, Scotty, is the talent required to get the business to that point is a lot harder to teach and to learn than the skill set required to navigate the next stage of growth. I mean, you just said you said it was some small tweaks, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not, I mean, once you've built the foundation, it's not the hard work. I mean, it's going to continue to be hard work. We can't discount that, but it becomes less about the hard work and more about the smart work. What are the strategic things I need to be doing? So, man, I mean, you've had a huge period. Talk to us about the last month or so and everything that's been going on in your world, what you've developed.
So within the last month, we've managed to completely get me out of the day-to-day operations. So no more tools for me. Look how smooth my hands are. I've not had hands this smooth for the past 15 years. I tell you, it's amazing. So we've managed to
mate, these hands haven't seen a hard day's work in their life.
So we've managed to elevate me, for want of a better word, out of that stuff and into more of a leadership role within the business. But most of the gold, actually, most of the good stuff came. I mean, the learnings and the teachings and stuff are all fabulous, and the workshops are amazing. And we just did the sales workshop, which was great. But most of the golden nuggets, if you like, have come from conversations in passing with the other incredible people that you immerse yourself in and you're able to surround yourself with.
Totally.
I mean, I had the pleasure of spending some time with Pete on Saturday and just having these little conversations, and you can just see people sitting around the table and you see the penny drops, and they're like, that's particularly with me as well, we had a conversation around finances, and I didn't quite understand my numbers at all. Hence the reason I was able to free up 70 grand, and it was like that, right? That was like an instantaneous. And I was like, Jesus, like, what else is there in here? Like, let's go and see what else is in here. Like, because I know there's other stuff, and you just can't see it for looking at it. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees, right? It's amazing. But it's all those little conversations you have with all these amazing people that you get to surround yourself with. And for me, that's been the biggest benefit.
It is the biggest thing, because in the absence of a community of like-minded, like-hearted people, as an entrepreneur, you're an outlier. You're an outsider. You know, our DNA is cut probably like 0.1% of the population, right? And so, for me, the biggest sort of fear I have around, let's call it 1%ers or entrepreneurs, is that they don't get the opportunity to connect with and talk with and explore with and vent with other 1%ers. And so the voice of the crowd starts to drown out their own inner voice. And so in the absence of community and like-minded, like-hearted people, you can be surrounded by people who don't get it, who don't share the values. Like, why are you working so hard, man? I get paid more than you. Why the hell are you working so hard? And the scariest thing for me is that the 1%er then starts to think, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm just an idiot. Maybe I was too overly optimistic. I just need to go and get a normal job, or sort of pull my head back in. What if we just sort of open it up to the floor and do let's explore the human side of entrepreneurship, right? What have you found has been the biggest challenge for you personally throughout your entrepreneurial journey?
Look, I think for myself, it is what changed for me was actually when I did the vision, mission, values session, probably about 2 or 3 months ago. And it's actually been,
I remember that we had you up on stage.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got a side thing. We're looking to create Australia's first veteran business chamber, and it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. But how do we actually capture and articulate purpose? Because it's one thing to go to work, you rock up, you put the effort in, but when you can actually find like a fundamental purpose and start, everything you do comes through that, it just becomes so much more sincere and easy. And no longer do you need to sell, you just share. And you don't need to, you attract and you just sort of resonate. It just becomes part of your fiber.
Yeah, yeah. Stops being such a push. I think it was Steve Jobs that said, when you have a compelling vision, you don't need to push yourself anymore. The vision pulls you. Same with customers, same with partners, same with media opportunities. They're sort of gravitated in almost from the resonance. Montana, what's been the most challenging part of this journey for you? I mean, you had a unique path into business.
Very much so, yes. I think that it's similar to what was mentioned previously about being so immersed in the process side that you aren't able to then shift yourself higher up, like with yourself, moving upwards to the higher parts of the business. So I think that the second guessing of you being able to sit in the higher chair, that's something that I probably dealt with probably the most. A lot of second guessing, because I'd very much been from the customer side. I've grown up in gyms. I was running around and being held back from the area until I was 14 years old by my father. Never going to forgive him for sure. No, but it's coming from such an experiential side, and knowing I deeply understood the customer journey and I knew what I expected. And as much as I'd love to go touring other gyms and picking apart their own pieces, then to have at the helm, then to have the pen in your own hand to make the decision. And all of a sudden you have all of that experience behind you, but then you think, am I definitely the right person to be doing this? And you know that you're the person who cares the most, but so often can that be put in the wrong direction. So I think that there was a sense of second guessing and, not knowing if you should be doing what you should be doing. So I think a lot of that has come down to making sure that I've tiered my own passion and the want to inspire other people and the want to empower and protect a community of our membership. Putting that into the fact that I also want to have my own sense of uniqueness in business and believing in that. It's so hard, I think, and this is something that's very much come up in Entourage, even though I haven't been in a mastermind circle, which is a fantastic, incredible, the vulnerableness which you get from everyone else. I've already experienced that openness and welcomeness, and it's so hard to shed that image. And I think to feel so so emboldened to be raw is just so enlightening, and it's really, really quite affirming that you don't already have to have been everything you feel like you need to be, but you can get there eventually. And I think that it's that humility and belief in you're on at the end of the track, and you're not at the end stop, but you're getting there. And that's for me something to believe in too, for sure.
I'm so glad you say that. Whenever I ask that question, I'm hoping someone talks about the identity component, because I think it's so fundamental to the entrepreneurial journey. Because what's happening in the entrepreneurial journey often is the rate of growth in your external world is often far steeper than the rate of growth that your self-identity is able to keep up with.
Yes.
And so yesterday I was an electrician. Today I've got 2 staff. Next month I've got 6 staff. I was doing $5,000 a month. Now I'm doing $100,000 a month. My entire, I'm now a manager. I'm a leader. I'm managing finances. I'm managing human beings. I've got access to more capital. Everything changed, and it changed quick. And it's quicker than what, as human beings, from a psychological perspective, we're wired to be able to shift our identity to keep up with that. And so the ability to continually reinvent yourself and to keep up with the rate of growth that's going on in your external world, I think is a large part of the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes back to the whole mindset thing, right? Your mindset's got to shift as quickly as everything else shifts. And
100%.
For me, a large factor in it for me was mindfulness and practicing gratitude and just having gratitude. But before, I was a bit of a spoiled little brat, like it didn't, everything just came to me. I wasn't particularly wealthy, but everything just seemed to fall at my feet, and I didn't really give a shit like what happened.
Right.
And then all this amazing stuff happens, and then for me, it was when I had people dependent on me, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is real now. Like you're not just messing around here. But for me, what got me through that was 100% practicing gratitude. Like I'm oozing gratitude. Like I'm grateful for this glass. I'm grateful for this pen.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the air that's coming into my lungs right now. Like I'm just so grateful for everything that's happened, because, and like I often look back at sort of people in my, if you want to call it my past life. I don't think I've had 2 different lives, but people from different generation or different areas of my life, and where they are at now and where I am at now, and it's like miles apart. And it's like I'm so grateful that I chose to go down this path and end up where I am here, sitting chatting with Jack Delosa where there's other people that are not as fortunate as that. So for me, mindfulness and gratitude have been, it's been the turning point.
I think it's one thing to be lucky, and I think that it's definitely something to practice, is that, there are some things that you can't explain, or something that's happened to or been brought to you that you've had to grab onto, and to feel like, oh, I'm lucky for this to be happening, or it's just happenstance, or it's a coincidence. But to then honestly trust yourself that you're grabbing it as well, and you're doing everything you can to put into it. And I think that's something that you can temper the nerves of the future problems, or you can at least look back on something and say, okay, I think I did the right thing there. And I think grabbing onto those moments and having that sense of self-reflection is so important as well, and to be kind to yourself too.
Yeah,
for sure.
What do you do, Pete, from a mindfulness perspective to stay sane?
Well, this has actually been a bit of a revelation for me in the last couple of weeks, is that life is so complex. This, whether it be partners, friends, suppliers, employees, accounts, whatever. For me, I've had a bit of a revelation about simplicity. How can we make things as simple as possible?
Yeah.
And it's not about not doing the work, because simplicity doesn't mean laziness, but it just means trying to understand and articulate a problem, to bring it back to its basics, to be able to just get a sense of flow rather than friction. Certainly one thing that I'm doing is trying to get towards the 5 a.m. club. I'm not quite there yet with a 1-year-old in the house, sleeps precious. But this week, getting down to like a special place for me is Marn Pool between Coogee and Maroubra. And if you can get in the water before the sun rises every morning, you always have a good day.
Yeah.
So it just resets you, and it sets you up.
What's been the biggest paradigm shift for you guys since joining the Entourage? If there was a fundamental paradigm shift that sort of sat atop everything else, what would it be, Scotty?
I guess it's the realization that I can do this. I mean, I had so long sort of...
What was it that gave you that realization?
It's chatting to people. Right. You're in a room with people that have either made the mistakes you have made in the past, and you know that it's not only you that's done that. You're not dumb, or people that have made mistakes in the past that you can now foresee or avoid because someone else has made it and they've sort of steered you off course for that. So, yeah, 100%. Like the realization that I'm not just a dumb tradie and I can do this, and that being reinforced by other people, but by your peers, people who have been there and done it. That for me was a huge shift in mindset, and that's what's got me fired up and pumped now.
And what does that make possible for you?
Anything is possible now. Like the plans I have now for the business compared to the plans I didn't have many plans for the business 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago before I joined. Like it's incredible. Like where this thing's going now, right? And I can actually see it going there. Before I might have made plans with myself and like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but there was no real action to be taken. But now I've got a clear path of where I'm going to go, where I'm going to be in 12 months, where I'm going to be in 3 years, where I'm going to be in 5 years. And I know every step of the way how I'm going to get there. And I know that if I don't do those steps, I'm going to have Sharon on the phone giving it to me. It's funny, Sharon's amazing. She's got this amazing ability to know when I'm telling her pokey pies. She called me the other day.
She's a mum, mate. She can read it.
She called to ask if I had done a particular task she'd set for me, and I had sort of half-assed it a little bit, if I'm being honest. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I can tell by your voice you've not done it, Scott. I was like, I'm sorry. Sorry, Sharon.
She's so good.
She's great, yeah.
She's so good. So self-belief, main paradigm shift for you.
Self-belief enforced by other people that you know have been there and done it.
Yeah. Montana, what's been the main paradigm shift for you?
I know distinctly because I've been talking about it ever since. And this was in the leadership workshop, your discussion of integrator versus visionary.
Yeah,
so
big one.
Essentially, it's looking at potentially the top 1 or 2 or however many people you have up in the top realm of business, that you can kind of shift yourself to being categorized in a couple of different areas, and one being the visionary or the integrator. So I'm sure you can do a better way of explaining this than I am. But essentially a visionary being someone who's very much engaged in they know exactly who their customer is. They have big ideas. They don't look at anything else. It's all about the big plans, and everything has to steer towards that. The captain of the ship for, the entire business themselves. The integrator then being that person who's responsible for the processes and structure and timeframes and management, and making sure that visionary is set across their path and everything in front of them is moved aside and categorized. And really understanding that neither one has a different a place to sit above the other.
Yeah.
And both facets are important, and both facets are integral to business. And even if you don't neatly fit into either one, but you can tend towards certain sides in each performance aspect you have. So quickly realizing, yes, I am an integrator. I am that person who sits back, loves the process, feels so safe in the paradox of structure giving freedom. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I think that quickly realizing that I didn't have to have all the visionary answers, and that they've already been set up before me. And and then once I figured that out for myself, I gave myself all this room then to just focus back on the business, because I've had very much of an identity query, and I very much pushed that to the side. I didn't allow myself to open that Pandora's box, as they say, because I didn't have the word for it. And then you gave me the word on my lap in the middle of a day in Sydney, looking out to like Darling Harbour beyond me, going,
it's terrible
oh my
view.
God, now I know who I am in this totally cliche, ridiculous way. It was mind-boggling to me. And it was only done so much that to clarify. And it also means that you can then start to then break off what you're good at and what you're not good at. And for me, I loved that I could then rest on my laurels that I'm an integrator. Praise be to all integrators out there. We work hard sometimes without knowing, what you've done.
Yeah.
But then I could focus back on other people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the unsung heroes, man. And I like what you said is I knew myself. It's self-awareness. I mean, it's amazing to me how many times I talk to two partners in business, particularly if they're life partners, right? Like you've got a husband and a wife. And essentially what you've got is a visionary and an integrator, and they're down at each other's throats because they think that one's a visionary, one's an integrator, and therefore their differences are why the partnership don't work. And I'm like, no. It's these differences that make the partnership great. And it's exactly what you said. A visionary is big picture thinker, typically sees the future, very empathetic towards consumer. The visionary loves the dream of the business. And then the integrator loves operational perfection. Whereas the visionary loves chasing shiny things and it's always on to the next thing and it's impulsive. The integrator obsesses over sustain, maintain. How do I get that idea and operationalize it and bed it down? Whereas the visionary is empathetic, the integrator is highly rational. Mm-hmm. Whereas the visionary is very sort of high level, big picture thinker. The integrator has the ability to have a very high attention to detail. And so often when you get a visionary and integrator, if they don't have the language or the model for it yet, they're like, he just doesn't get it. He's off in the clouds and he just thinks he just inspire everyone and money's got to show up. And then the husband's like, but she's just so in the detail and she weighs me down, because she's an integrator, right? And it's like, no, this is the strength of the relationship. Janine Ellis said it to me best. She's the founder of Boost Juice. And so we're having this conversation probably like 8 years ago. And she was like, because she was running Boost Juice at the time with her husband, Jeff. She was like, if Jeff ran Boost Juice, we'd have 500 stores and they'd be run terribly, right? Jeff's the visionary. If I ran Boost Juice, we'd have 10 stores and they'd be run beautifully. Janine's the integrator. But we both run Boost Juice, so we have 100 stores and they're run well enough. And I just thought it's the best summary for that visionary integrator tension and how when it's understood and appreciated for what it is, it gives rise to an incredible business.
Absolutely. And I think that is so at the core of understanding that we all just are humans.
Yeah.
Not mindless machines.
Yeah.
Shockingly.
Yeah.
No, I think that, and to know then your own mechanisms and your own emotional impulses or, what rises you at 3 a.m. in the morning, then all of a sudden everything else can start fitting into place as well. I think, and to recoil to that, however many times in a year you need to, is nothing but positive.
100%,
for sure.
100%. Yeah, know thyself and know how you're wired, and then play your game that way. It's incredibly liberating. Big process, PD Liston, main paradigm shift for you.
For me, it was about getting it done. So we came to Entourage with a successful business, but it had a sunset. It was going to close, and we needed to kick something off and get something else going. Our first model that we tried basically didn't work. We went to be a virtual assistant agency because we just knew how much leverage that gave us in the first business.
Yeah,
we tried it. We had the overcrowded market with the wrong message, and we weren't any different. So it just didn't work, and we had to really adjust and make something happen. So what we realized is that not every business needs virtual assistants, but every business needs great processes and procedures. So we pulled ourselves to the left, and one of the things that I was lacking before I came to Entourage was education. Well, specific entrepreneurial education, because coming from the military, I was good at operations and planning and HR, had that stuff sorted. But cash flow, creating a digital presence, sales and marketing, I just hadn't touched that space before. So being able to round myself off and actually having this culture of just getting it done means we've grown our second business within the 12 months, and we'll hit our 7 figures in 18 months from startup. So it just happens. And we've got the faith to do it in ourselves now. We trust the process because we know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Nice plug there.
It's beautiful the way you wrote
Subtle.
Now, let's talk about the future. What does the future hold for each of you? Montana, talk to us. We've got 100 clubs in 5 years.
Let's stretch that maybe to 8. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we only want to be able to provide a fitness community to as many Australians as possible. And us being at Planet Fitness, we make sure that we dedicate ourselves to a high value but low cost club. So for all of our clubs, you can kick off a membership from $5 a week and make sure that you can get to all of our equipment, cardio, strength, the functional side. And if you want those extra additives of the group fitness, some people need to have the energy of other people around them. Yes, you can add that on as well. You can add on our spa facilities as well, which is just enhancing the recovery side that people really need to get in touch with their bodies about.
You got cold plunge pools?
No, we don't. No, but we have these incredible machines called hydro massage. So it's kind of, if you think about the retro waterbeds of 80s and 90s, everyone's mum and dad had one. But if you imagine that there's a lounge, or they come also sit in a bed format with a conveyor belt underneath that shoots warm air targeted at your body, where you can position it along your back through from your neck all down the way down to the bottom of your feet. Change your intensity, change your speed. Your recovery is amplified crazy. No, and sometimes you can accidentally jump on it before you go have your workout. Not as good, but I definitely encourage, self-care, everyone. It's very important. No, but you can enhance and create your fitness journey as you please. There's absolutely no one you need to hold yourself to other than yourself. And if you want someone to be there to cheer you on, absolutely we're there. It's those stories that are just gems to me. And having grown up being around athletes and people who've had incredible weight loss journeys, people who've come and go, people who had to get fit to run the marathon or for their wedding. It's just the way that you have a bunch of metal in a room that then becomes an effect in someone's life. It's transformative. And it's transformative. I had no hope of getting out of the industry, born into it, no way of getting out. I absolutely adore it. So for us, it's making sure that we can get to as many people as possible, and being a low cost model doesn't mean that we skip out on our duty to being friendly, to being there, to having people in the club to make sure you feel like you're safe. And is also being very, very clean. It's very important that you make sure that the customer journey is as much as you would expect elsewhere. So we're very much planning to make sure that we can get into as many big and small communities in Australia as possible. Country folk need not worry. We're getting out there as much as we can. But yeah, definitely be looking out for our name in the future. Until
Planet
then,
Australia.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And until then, I'm making sure that we can do as much as we can from our side. Being a Novocastrian myself, taking care of the Newcastle and Hunter region is my bread and butter. So it's brilliant. It's really fun to do.
100%. Very, very cool. Scotty, what does the future hold for you?
What does the future hold? It's funny, because 4 weeks ago, if you asked me that question, I was so desperate just to wrap all the loose ends up and offload the business, whether sell it or get myself, because I was so sick and tired of.
Sick of the stage you're at.
Yeah, I was just sort of bobbing along doing hundreds and hundreds of hours for no return. But now you can buy this business. Like, no one's getting a hand on this. This is my baby now.
And it's amazing you've done that in 4 weeks.
Yeah,
that's how quickly it can happen.
That's just that mindset shift, right? Like, where before it was a burden on me, and now it's this amazing opportunity that I know has been sitting there, and I know, like, if I put in the work, this thing's going to explode, right? I just know it is. What's in store for us? In the next 12 months, we'll double the business. In 3 years, we'll probably 5x it if I'd like to, and I'd like to move interstate. We've also got plans to sort of add different aspects of the business, so maybe some heating and cooling, some air conditioning, and maybe there's a little bit of hearsay we might do a little bit of plumbing in the future as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
It's exclusive. Nice one, Scotty. Thanks for that, mate. Petey.
For Trust the Process, we're on a constant evolution of learning, trying to like really reach out to our clients and understand what they want. And we really want to keep improving our offering and maintaining this set of culture, one team in 2 places, the team in the Philippines and our clients in Australia, how we create that, one community. I think importantly for us, now that we've hit a level of success, and it's because we practice what we preach religiously, it's coming with a relatively sense of flow. That we do want to set up this Veterans Business Chamber, which is our focus on giving back to a great community that is just ready to be untapped through entrepreneurship. Great set of skills, and we really want to be able to share what the successes we've had, particularly in that community.
Yep. One of the things I often talk about is the importance as we navigate, we've spoken about the loneliness of the entrepreneurial journey. We've spoken about the isolation. We spoke about how challenging it can be, particularly when being faced with plateau after plateau. And if I can sort of credit my personal success to anything throughout my career, it's been leveraging, particularly earlier on in my career, leveraging the knowledge and the experience, the been there, done that experience of other entrepreneurs that had come before me. And so I just think in coaching and training, there is so much leverage to be attained, right? I mean, in finance, there's a principle called OPM, other people's money. You borrow other people's money, you invest it, you make more than the interest you're going to pay back, and there's your arbitrage, there's your profit. The concept that's more powerful than OPM is OPT, which is other people's time, right? Getting around people who've been there, done that experience, whether they're 2 years, 5 years, 10 years further down the path than you, and learning from them such that they can shortcut the journey and show you where the low-hanging fruit is, show you where the smart work is as opposed to the hard work is, to help you accelerate that growth. Where a lot of people come up against that is, if we talk about the entourage, there's a financial investment, there's a time investment, there's a traveling from Newcastle. We signed up, someone got started in Entourage last week from Ecuador. We used to have members from the US. People travel from Perth over to Sydney, right? And so there's an investment. My question for you guys is, what was the moment that you decided, yes, this is something I'm going to do? I'm going to invest the energy, invest the capital, invest the time, because I know that what got me to where I am isn't going to get me to where I need to be, and I want to shortcut and accelerate the journey. What was that moment of decision, and why did you make it?
Mine was when I was sitting having coffee with Steve Lakovich. He's the only man that's managed to sell to me in such a short space of time. Yeah. Selling to a Scotsman's particularly difficult, but he managed to do quite a good job of it. But I was just sitting there and I knew all these problems I had. And they were staring me right in the face and they were keeping me awake at night, and had stress and anxiety. And I just spoke to him for 45 minutes and I immediately could see a way out of those problems. He presented to me answers and solutions that I knew were 100% what I needed. It's what I had been looking for. Yeah. I was dying for someone to come and present that to me, and when he did, I was like, take my money, dude. Here's my cards.
Committed.
Yeah.
Right.
let's do it.
Awesome.
And then I came up and aggressively rung the bell. And got
Yeah.
I'm told it's the most aggressive bell ring in the history of Entourage. So
that's an honor in and of itself.
Yeah.
Montana, what about you? What was the moment of decision where you thought, yeah, I'm in, I'm going to commit?
Yes. So I think that after I had a trial workshop as it may, and I then implemented those leadership ideas that I said previously, that of a cultural shift and cultural events to bring the community of our employees together, and also making sure that there was dedicated days in the calendar year to development and staff personal and professional development. I sat back after I'd done all of those incredibly quickly. So I'd say that I developed the processes and implemented them for a timeline within a week.
Wow.
And I realized that you hadn't done something for me, but you'd given me the impetus to get it done. And the fact that I got it done quickly, you gave me the call to action. So I think that it was the fact that you're not going to be there to, baby step me through something. If you'd like to, I'll take it on board. But the fact that I had this, the spark, hit the spark, got the ball rolling, and I did something. And I want that. I don't want that to stop. And obviously the fact that then I can just believe in something and knowing that it's come from a group of executive leaders, it's come from people in multiple industries, it's been tried, it's been tested. You don't have to second guess yourself. You just have to do it. Just as like Pete said before, get it done. So I got something done and it went well. And I don't think you should ever let that go.
Yeah.
So I think it was that moment of they made me do something and I can hold on to that now.
Yeah.
So took my money then as well.
Yeah.
Dang.
Committed.
I know. Two strong sales.
Petey, moment of decision for you.
For me, I'd done one of your one-day workshops back over in EP1. And I guess at the end of it, I came home, I really sort of sat on it and digested, and I'm committed to this path of entrepreneurship. It's an insatiable itch that I will scratch because there's nothing else I want to do. We had belief in ourselves and our concepts and our products, but we just didn't really have, or for me, specific education. And I wasn't interested in a degree or a certificate. I just needed to know what I needed to know to go to the next level.
Yeah.
So that was the driver for me. So I knew I needed something. I went out and got it, and I'm more than happy with where I am as a result.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's funny you mentioned, Montana, that no one's there doing it for you, and I think if there's anyone listening that thinks this is like a magic pill, you take it and someone's going to come in and do it all for you. It's absolutely not. Like it's still hard work. Like you still have to put in the effort, you still have to put in the hours, you still have to do the do. But what it does create is this amazing sense of energy coming right from behind you that somehow forces you to do it. It's not even forcing you to do it, like you want to do it.
Absolutely.
You have this, and like I'm dying to get home to start doing some more work on my business. Right,
you're a new man.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
There's a great saying called "work hard once." Work smarter, not harder, is a little bit cliche, but you need to work hard once to nail a problem, create something, and then let it run.
Yeah,
it's not just going to come.
Absolutely, and that comes from process. And my partner would like to have a word with you because we now have loads of little sticky notes all over our kitchen wall.
I dream in pastel.
Yeah,
Pete's fault.
Yeah.
And all the idiosyncrasies are so fun to hear about as well. I think that so much we can feel like is our own little personal vice.
Totally.
Something that we do ourselves to feel human again, or a comfort zone, but to hear it from other people is just brilliant. And I think it's just so enlightening. I think you're probably saying what every tradie wants to hear out there as well, is that hell yeah, go for it.
We've all got totally different businesses, but it's the same journey. It's the same experiences.
Very much so.
If we went back to the person you were a year ago, what is the advice you would give yourself then, being who you are now?
Reach out to Steve Lakovich and go and have coffee with him. It will change your life.
He's paying you.
Life,
you're on there.
yeah, this is not a
I feel like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
This is not a sponsored ad. No, absolutely. Like I wish I had done this earlier. I wish I had done this a year ago or even 2 years ago. I was at the position where I could have done it 2 years ago, but you don't know what you don't know. So I'm glad that your Facebook pixels were following me around.
Yeah, we're good at that.
Yeah.
Good.
I definitely think that it was like for a year ago, I think it's not even that I'm a different person, but it is very much the mindset. And it's about like yes, this is the thing worth sacrificing over. I'm away from 2 different realms, between Sydney and Newcastle, and I travel every single week. My partner's in Sydney, and then business is on the road as well. And it's, you start to question, like, what is worth it? And 100% it would be like double down, triple down on that which is worth the sacrifice, because you otherwise won't see it. The diamond is just beyond the rough a bit further. So it's very much that you have to make sure that you believe and continue to get there, because it's only going to get better on.
I think for me,
thanks, Montana.
A bit different for me, because I'm approaching the end of my second year in Entourage. So I'm quite happy with the person a year ago, because I was on the journey and I'm continuing that journey.
Yeah.
So
what if we go 2 years ago in your instance?
Yeah, come on, give us something.
Okay, so
come on.
2 years ago, I just didn't practice what I preached.
Wow.
So it's actually being able to come back and, like, what you need to do. And really, I would say, okay, here's some truly appreciating the value of my time and being selfish with it.
Yeah.
And allocating time for me, making sure that, my family and kids come first, that my glass is full so I can actually share.
Yeah.
And always putting myself in the point where I'm going to have the biggest leveraged effect on what I do, and just trying to delegate all of the non-value things, or even question yourself, do they even have value, or why am I doing these things?
Such a profound conversation. Montana Rose Kelly from Planet Fitness, Scotty McLaren from Scott Electrics, Petey Liston from Trust the Process. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for showing up in your lives. Thank you for showing up in your businesses. Thank you for the capes that you wear, and for coming here today and being an example to so many people watching this video, because through your stories, they see themselves, and the same hope that some of you have been sparked with over the last 4 weeks to 2 years, you've sparked in some hearts and some minds today. So thank you all for that. You're amazing people. Well done on your success.
Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone.
Team, if you take anything from today's episode, let it be this. I speak to entrepreneurs every single day who are going through challenges, personal challenges, commercial challenges, financial challenges. The challenges of the entrepreneur are universal. The personal challenges we face are the same. The commercial challenges we face are the same. The plateaus we face are often of the same causes, right? If there's a second thing I want you to take from today's episode, it's that you don't have to do it alone. There are people and communities out there that can guide you and lead you along the journey to accelerate and shortcut your journey, and not just in a commercial or a financial sense, but also make you more of who you are along the way, because you're actually enjoying the process. That's how business and life should be done. So well done, and thank you for tuning into today. Look forward to speaking to you soon.